In the early 1980s, Anchorage was booming with new money and restless energy. But as the city thrived, women began to disappear. One by one, they vanished from the neon-lit 4th Avenue Strip and from the quiet suburbs beyond, swallowed by the vast Alaskan wilderness. At the center of it all was Robert Hansen, a quiet, unassuming baker next door. But history would remember him differently, as the Butcher Baker. This is the story of how he turned the vast national forests into his personal hunting ground, and how one desperate escape finally shattered the silence, exposing a predator who used the Alaskan wilderness as his greatest weapon. In a boomtown like Anchorage, a solid professional reputation served as a powerful shield. Robert Hansen owned and operated Hansen's Bakery on 9th Avenue. To the local community, he represented the ideal of a hard-working small business owner. He regularly provided fresh donuts to his neighbors and offered polite, if slightly stuttering, greetings to anyone who walked through his door. Hansen stood out as a champion archer and a highly skilled hunter. The walls of his home featured trophies of Dall sheep and moose, proving his ability to navigate the Alaskan backcountry. He understood the meticulous logistics required for survival in the north. As a licensed pilot, he owned a Piper Super Cub. In Alaska, a private plane serves as a necessary tool for navigating a state where the road system covers only a fraction of the land. However, a second version of Hansen existed in the shadows of the Anchorage nightlife. Behind his mild demeanor lived a man harboring deep-seated resentment toward women. This predatory behavior developed through a slow, calculated buildup. He frequented the bars and strip clubs of 4th Avenue, specifically seeking out women he believed the city would easily overlook. He focused on the invisible residents, those without strong local ties or steady employment. Between 1971 and 1983, the number of missing women in the Anchorage area grew steadily. The police struggled to connect these individual disappearances. In a city filled with transient workers, a missing dancer or a runaway teenager rarely triggered a massive tactical response. While the authorities searched the pavement for clues, Hansen focused on the horizon. He planned frequent trips into the Knik River Valley and the Matanuska-Susitna area. These locations featured thick timber and earth scarred by glacial silt, providing the perfect cover for his activities. The geography of the Alaskan wilderness presents a vertical nightmare for search teams. The terrain consists of crumbling rock, braided rivers, and deadfall, tangled piles of fallen timber that make even a short walk treacherous. Robert Hansen mastered this landscape and turned it into a weapon. The mechanics of Hansen's crimes remained chillingly consistent. He kidnapped women at gunpoint, frequently using his status as a safe, local business owner to lure them into his vehicle. He avoided keeping them within the city limits. Instead, he drove them to Merrill Field Airport and loaded them into his Piper Super Cub. Once the plane left the ground, the victim effectively exited the known world. The absence of cell towers in the 1980s meant no digital breadcrumbs existed to follow. Hansen landed on remote gravel bars along the Knik River or in small clearings within the national forest. These locations remained inaccessible to anyone without a bush plane and the specific coordinates of the landing site. According to later testimony, Hansen engaged in a horrifying process he called the game. He released the women into the dense woods, occasionally providing them with a brief head start. He then tracked them through the brush using a .223 caliber Ruger Mini 14 rifle. In a forest of that density, a sprint is measured in feet. A runner quickly encounters obstacles, loses momentum in the thick brush, or becomes disoriented by the lack of clear landmarks. Hansen maintained the advantage of the high ground and his decades of experience as a trophy hunter. He viewed these women as another set of antlers for his collection. He chased a delusion of total control, leading his victims into a biological no man's land, where even experienced bush pilots rarely ventured. When searchers eventually investigated these remote areas, they found a complete vacuum. The Alaskan interior often features a ground cover of moss and silt that fails to hold a trail for long. Hansen counted on the sheer, soul-crushing scale of the landscape to bury his evidence. He believed the wilderness would act as a permanent vault for his secrets. In June 1983, the carefully constructed Baker persona finally began to crumble. The breakthrough in the case came from 17-year-old Cindy Paulson, rather than a high-tech search or a forensic discovery. Hansen kidnapped Paulson at gunpoint and took her to his home. He later moved her to Merrill Field, intending to fly her out to the Knik River. While Hansen occupied himself with preparing the cockpit of his plane, he underestimated Paulson's resolve. Cindy Paulson moved with sudden, desperate speed. Despite being barefoot and bound in handcuffs, she managed to scramble out of the truck and run toward the Seward Highway. She flagged down a passing motorist, ending her immediate nightmare and starting the chain of events that would end Hansen's career. When the police arrived, Paulson provided a detailed description of the Baker, his private plane, and his residence. Even with this testimony, Hansen's reputation initially protected him. When investigators questioned him, he provided a prearranged alibi. His friends, prominent members of the Anchorage community, vouched for his character. They found it impossible to believe that a local business owner could be capable of such violence. The investigation reached a point of chilling contradiction. On one side stood the testimony of a teenager often dismissed by the legal system. On the other side stood a successful entrepreneur with a clean record. The case threatened to stall, potentially leaving Paulson's story as a lone alarm in a sea of silence. However, the FBI's behavioral science unit noticed a distinct pattern. They recognized the behavior of a man who navigated high-pressure environments with a calm demeanor. They saw a predator who was reliable under pressure, but harbored a violent secret identity. This profile gave local investigators the confidence to push for a more intrusive search. On October 27, 1983, the silence finally ended. Authorities executed a search warrant on Robert Hansen's home and bakery. They looked for a specific signature that would link him to the missing women. The search revealed the total breakdown of the mild-mannered Baker facade. In a hidden crawl space, investigators discovered a collection of trophies. These included jewelry and personal items belonging to the vanished women. The most incriminating evidence, however, was an aviation map of the Anchorage area found in Hansen's possession. The map featured more than 20 small X marks. These handwritten notations did not indicate flight paths or business locations. Each X marked a body. Each symbol represented a grave located deep within the national forest. The subsequent recovery effort required massive logistics. Over several months, authorities used the map to locate the victims. The mountain remained a blank page in many areas, making the search difficult. Some bodies lay exactly where the X indicated, while others had been reclaimed by the shifting wilderness. The Alaskan earth moves constantly. Glacial silt and spring floods can bury evidence under feet of debris in a single season. Hansen eventually confessed to the murders of 17 women to avoid federal charges. Investigators believe the actual number of victims could exceed 30. During his interviews, he described his victims with a chilling focus on the mechanics of the hunt. He spoke more about the terrain and the pursuit than the lives he destroyed. For the families of the women, the map provided a final, painful clarity. They faced the reality that their loved ones had been hunted in the very woods they called home. The gap between the Baker's public reputation and his private actions remained the most disturbing aspect of the case. Robert Hansen died in prison in 2014. He took the exact locations of several victims to his grave, leaving those cases forever unresolved. Today, His story serves as a reminder of how easily a person can vanish while standing in the middle of a crowd. It also highlights how the wilderness can be used to conceal the things society refuses to acknowledge. If you plan to visit the Alaskan backcountry, please ensure you are well prepared. The landscape rarely gives second chances. As Robert Hansen proved, the greatest danger in the woods sometimes wears a familiar face and offers a polite greeting before leading you off the map.